Just then, Lee saw that the Phoenix girl had woken up. He told her that he hand-bandaged her wound and that she just needed to wait for her skin to heal. He told her that she was fine now. The Phoenix couldn't understand at first and asked him what he was talking about. She didn't think that he could just remove the law of destruction that was affecting her body. However, she soon realized that she was actually fine. The Fire Phoenix thanked him and could already feel herself getting better, like it was a miracle. Lee, feeling pretty happy, asked how she got hurt. She started analyzing Lee and realized that he was just a mortal who had cured her with a knife and some ordinary seasoning. She was even more impressed by him and knew that he was the person she was looking for. The Phoenix explained that she had come down from the immortal realm to help someone ascend and got hit by some divine punishment. Lee was in shock and stared at the Phoenix, asking what kind of bird she was. The Phoenix proudly said that she was a divine Fire Phoenix. She then started flexing all of her premium features. Lee was terrified and amazed at the same time. He couldn't believe that he had just saved a celestial bird. Dai Yi looked at him and thought that he was just acting. However, at this point, she was used to it. Meanwhile, Lee was still in shock. He questioned why the mighty Phoenix would need him to save her. He thought to himself that he was like a coward, putting on a band-aid for the Weaver girl. He got a bit too carried away and wondered when the 7 fairies were going to fall from the sky. Now that the Phoenix had come to this world, he accidentally touched the Phoenix's body, to which she screamed and asked him what he was trying to do. Lee told her that it was his first time seeing a Phoenix, so he just wanted to feel her fur. The Phoenix started flexing again and told him that he could touch her wherever he wanted, since he was her savior. Lee couldn't control his excitement and felt like the luckiest guy in the world. Dai Yi couldn't watch this anymore, so she took a deep breath to calm herself down. Lee got closer to the Phoenix and told her that she lost a lot of blood. The Phoenix acted confused and asked him if there was any problem with her body. Lee told her that her body was fine, but in stories from his past life, Phoenix blood was always super valuable. He asked the Phoenix if he could collect some of her blood since she had lost so much. The Phoenix gave him permission, and Lee immediately went on to collect the blood from the ground. She was speechless and thought Lee was being way too quick about it. Lee couldn't wait to get to his room with the blood. As Lee went away with the blood, the Phoenix thought to herself that Lee was too interesting. She then started shining and transformed into her human form. She couldn't believe that Lee liked her blood so much and wondered if Lee would help her if she asked. Before she could take another step, she heard Blackie's voice telling her that her thoughts were too dangerous. Dai Yi noticed him talking to the Phoenix. As she was about to join them, Lee called her out and told her to come over. He showed her a bucket filled with the Phoenix's blood. He told her that she was a Fire Phoenix, so he didn't think that it would be appropriate for him to ride her. But they were still lucky, since they obtained her blood. This made Dai Yi think. Lee noticed that she was zoned out and asked if she was happy. Dai Yi smiled and told him that the Phoenix blood allowed a person to remain young and to extend their lifespan, so they were truly lucky. Lee agreed with her as he took the bucket away. Out of nowhere, Dai Yi looked at him and told him to drink the Phoenix's blood since he liked it that much. Not gonna lie, she sounds like a jealous girlfriend right now. Lee acted surprised at her comment, but she told him that he could ask the Phoenix about the correct way to drink her blood. My man Lee was too naive to understand, so he just smiled and told her that it would be too impolite of them to ask the Phoenix about it. Dai Yi realized that she might have gone a bit too far with her comments, so she excused herself and began walking away. However, Lee grabbed her arm and told her that they should drink the blood together. Lee blushed and told her that they both could obtain eternal youth by drinking the blood, and by doing that he could stay with her forever. Dai Yi was a bit disappointed, since she knew that they wouldn't live for thousands of years. However, she suddenly realized why Lee must have said those words. She started thinking if Lee was telling her that he would stay by her side for thousands of years. Lee asked her if she was scared to drink the blood, since it was raw, so he volunteered to drink it first. As Lee started drinking, Dai Yi interrupted him and told him that it was her turn. Lee got a bit surprised and asked her if she had changed her mind. Dai Yi told him that she was happy to hear the words he had said previously. She said that she was ready to accompany him, not just for 1,000 years, but for 10,000 years. She looked at him with sparkling eyes and told him that she wanted to drink the blood. Lee got excited upon hearing that and told her that he would prepare a small bowl for her. However, as he looked back, he saw that Dai Yi was gulping the entire barrel like it was water. He got terrified and told her that she should drink a bit slower. After drinking the blood, Dai Yi said to herself that she couldn't just give away her position with Lee that easily. She wanted to be the one who was going to spend 1,000 years with him. Back outside, Blackie was warning the Phoenix girl against her thoughts. The Phoenix girl was surprised to see him and thought it might be a demon. She asked him about it, and he shook his head, introducing himself as just an ordinary black dog. He told her that he would be giving her some instructions, so she should note them down and recite them from time to time. Blackie told her his name and said that he was just a dog, and Da Yi, the nine-tailed celestial fox, was just immortal. He pointed out other beings like a chicken that lays eggs, a refrigerator, and an artificial mountain. The phoenix was baffled by what kind of strange group she had joined. Blackie made a terrifying face and told her that his master's hobby was to pretend to be immortal and to live a normal life. So if she interfered with his life and took his joy away, her life would never be the same. He reminded the phoenix of who she was dealing with, and the phoenix suddenly remembered. Realizing she had to be cautious, upon seeing her get so excited, he told her that she didn't seem reliable. He told her that if she served Lee well, she would be granted all of her wishes. Before the phoenix woman could say anything, Blackie told her that she was right. He pointed at the sky towards a cloud that was shaped like Lee and told her that Lee was the definition of an ultimate entity, since he could do anything. The phoenix women realized who Lee actually was. As Blackie began walking away, he asked her if she had any more questions. The girl looked at him and said that she just had one more thing. She immediately hugged Blackie excitedly and asked if she could sleep with him, even offering a big bone as a gift. Blackie was stunned and felt a bit insulted, wondering if his intelligence was being mocked. Lee appeared just then and teased Blackie, asking if she didn't like bones anymore. Blackie immediately started acting like a regular dog and reluctantly went to fetch the bone. Justice for our boy Blackie. Lee looked at the phoenix girl and noticed that she was pretty. Meanwhile, the girl remembered what Blackie told her about making Lee happy, so she got on the ground for him to ride her. Lee had previously told her that he wanted to ride her, so she thought that this would make him happy. However, Lee couldn't understand what the phoenix girl was trying to do. He looked at her with a terrified expression and wondered if the girl was angry, since he had asked if he could ride her. He decided to ignore her offer and invited her for breakfast in the backyard. The girl asked him if he wanted to ride him, but Lee declined the offer. After that, they both started walking towards the backyard. As they were walking, Lee noticed the phoenix could transform into a human. The girl was shocked that it took him this long to mention it. When she got to the entrance of the backyard, a voice tried to stop her from going in. It was Da Yi, but the phoenix girl didn't properly hear her and continued walking in. She walked into the backyard and was amazed by the spiritual energy there. She found that even the potatoes and vegetables were of medicinal quality and couldn't believe such a place existed. Da Yi stood back and watched her with Blackie. She told him that she also reacted like her when she first saw the yard, but then she got used to it. As the phoenix girl was about to ask about the strange things in the courtyard, Bai came running with 2 eggs and stuffed her mouth, so she couldn't speak. Lee told her that he couldn't understand her since she had food in her mouth. She felt embarrassed and told him that the eggs were tasty. Bai patted her on the back and advised her to eat more food and talk less, since it was probably better for her. He tried giving her some porridge, but Lee smacked his head and ordered him to serve her something better, since she was a celestial phoenix. Lee ran away with Bai to the kitchen. After they were gone, Blackie yelled at the girl and told her that she was doing something dangerous. She told him that she got excited and slipped her tongue and quickly assured him that it wouldn't happen again. She then exclaimed in surprise that there were dragons in the water. Annoyed, a dog's paw smacked her away, and she realized she needed to be more careful around these creatures. Lee heard a lot of noise and thought something big had happened, but when he turned around, he saw that the fire phoenix and Blackie were getting along just fine. Blackie looked a bit exasperated, thinking that Lee had brought home something troublesome this time. He looked at Da Yi and noticed that she was smiling. He asked her if her mood was better. Da Yi told him that she had figured it out. Blackie questioned her about what she had figured out, to which she answered that mounts were kept in the stable. On the other hand, pets slept with their master. Since she was Lee's pet, she didn't need to compete with a mere mount. This left Blackie with his mouth wide open. I agree with his reaction for once. Meanwhile, Lee was busy roasting a wild boar to offer to the phoenix girl. He pulled out the frozen wild boar and, with a smile, told the fire phoenix that she wouldn't be disappointed. The girl thought that it was worthless for her, since she deserved food of only divine quality. She thought to herself that even a wild boar at the savor stage, coated in honey from the golden flame bee, was worthless. However, as Lee started roasting it, the aroma quickly filled the air, making the immortal fire phoenix hungry. It was the first time in her life that she had felt hungry. After a while, Lee grinned and told her that it was ready. The fire phoenix couldn't help but drool, thinking that she had to eat the boar. She was completely taken over by her hunger. The delicious smell was too tempting, and the fire phoenix took a bite of the roasted meat. It tasted so good that she felt like he was in heaven. As she enjoyed the food, the fire phoenix noticed that the courtyard was full of extraordinary things. The place was packed with spiritual roots, which were super rare and almost extinct even in the immortal realm, due to the poor environment there. She closed her eyes and wondered if she had traveled back to ancient times. Memories from long ago flooded her mind, and she felt a warm feeling in her heart. The courtyard seemed like a mix of ancient laws and magic floating around. She also noticed some incredible plants and trees, including a chaotic forest root in the water and an earth god tree nearby. The Phoenix girl looked at Li and started wondering who he actually was. Just then, a voice brought her back to reality. It was Da Yi. She told the Phoenix to wipe her mouth. The girl asked Da Yi what she had just done, and Da Yi told her that she got a bit carried away. While eating the boar, the fire phoenix saw that the pig had been devoured. Meanwhile, Blackie was left with just a small bone to chew on. The Phoenix girl had made Li scared by the way she devoured the meat. The fire phoenix, feeling guilty, started crying and apologized. She was about to tell Li that there was something in the food. Blackie and Da Yi listened closely and wondered if she was going to talk about the Taoist flavor again. However, the Phoenix girl told them that the roasted pig reminded her too much of home. Li was a bit puzzled since he didn't understand how it could taste like her home. He asked if she meant to say that it tasted like home-cooked food. The Phoenix girl requested Li not to call her Celestial Phoenix and instead call her by her real name, which was Huo Feng. She explained that 10,000 years ago, she was just a mischievous little phoenix, but now everything had changed. Huo mentioned how the world's spiritual energy was declining and how her tribe was slowly disappearing. She thought she'd never find her way back home, but the taste of the roasted pig brought back memories. Da Yi and Blackie could clearly see through her story and realize that she was trying to gain sympathy. Li, touched by the Fire Phoenix's story, grabbed her hand and told her that it was her new home, and she could eat as much pig meat as she wanted. As the two of them hugged, Huo gave a thumbs up to Da Yi and Blackie, asking if she did well. Meanwhile, Blackie and Da Yi sensed a new problem. They knew something dangerous was about to happen. The scene changed to a forest where the eight-tailed celestial fox was scouting the pig demon. He was sitting with the squirrel lady, and both of them were talking. The pig told her how they had dedicated themselves to their duties by waiting outside Li's yard, laughed, and told her that they were the closest to him after Da Yi. The squirrel girl asked him what he was trying to say. The pig told her that they could try to get closer to Li since they had such a good relationship with him. The squirrel girl laughed and told him that it doesn't depend on how close they can stand to Li. The pig was confused and asked her what their relationship depended on. She explained that relations depend on hearts, and that is why their new Lord Demon King still felt like an outsider to them. Suddenly, the eight-tailed fox walked behind them and told them that they were correct. The pig was terrified and started apologizing. The eight-tailed fox looked distressed, since she was waiting to go back to the yard and be with her sister. Before she could say anything else, she was aggressively picked up by Da Yi. The pig warned her and ordered her to put their Lord Demon King down. Da Yi yelled at her sister and asked her why she wasn't cultivating and acting lazy. She told her that she still had 8 tails after all this time. The eight-tailed fox turned around and told her that her 9th tail had started to grow. Da Yi screamed at her even more and told her that it didn't seem big enough. The eight-tailed fox knew that something was bothering her sister, so she asked Da Yi why she was in such a bad mood. Da Yi told her that if she cultivated faster, Li wouldn't have the need for a mount since she could become his mount. She thought to herself that Li didn't want anything else happening between heaven and earth, so he kept the phoenix in his yard. Da Yi told her sister that the job belonged to her, but the phoenix stole it. As she looked back to see if her sister was listening or not, she saw the absolutely terrified faces of all 3 of them. They couldn't believe that she was talking about a phoenix. They started yapping about how the phoenix was an ancient bird, and she was pretty. The pig told the squirrel girl that it was probably the reason Da Yi was bothered. Da Yi couldn't take it anymore and threatened him with turning him into food ingredients technique. It worked well, and they all got quiet. After a moment of pause, Da Yi's sister told her that she was willing to do anything to help her. Da Yi immediately shoved a barrel of blood down her throat and told her that it was beneficial for her as a monster. She claimed that she could help her advance further if she drank the blood. Suddenly, Da Yi's sister told her that she wasn't feeling well. Da Yi realized that it was probably the effect of the phoenix's blood. Da Yi's sister was feeling immense pain during her transformation. Da Yi knew that this process was painful, but her sister needed to go through it if she wanted to become a nine-tailed fox. The pig told her that their Lord Demon King had never faced any hardships, so this was too much for her. Suddenly, Da Yi channeled a red aura and a flame covered her. She told her sister that she would share the pain with her. Da Yi was trying to use her powers to reduce the pain on her sister, but it could also cause her a lot of harm. As she was about to use her full power, she was stopped by a hand. It was the Phoenix Girl. She told Da Yi that she followed her since she saw her sneak out secretly. However, she wasn't expecting her to have such a cute sister. Da Yi's sister asked the Phoenix if she was the one who threatened her sister. The Phoenix Girl asked her if her blood tasted good. Da Yi tried forcing her hand free, but the Phoenix Girl held onto it and told her that if she tried protecting her sister by force, it would cause her even more pain. She explained that since she was an ice element, she would experience more pain than normal. Da Yi freed her hand and asked her why she was telling her all that. The Phoenix Girl teased her and asked her if she was worried that she would take her spot in Li's heart. Da Yi looked down and told her that she was just one of Li's pets, and she never said that she wanted to become his only pet. The Phoenix Girl started smiling and told her that she was greedier than her, so she would ask Li to make her his partner. Da Yi almost exploded with anger upon hearing this, and the Phoenix Girl started excitedly jumping. She announced how daring she was even after thousands of years and transformed into her phoenix form. She went over to Da Yi's sister and told her that she was responsible for taking care of her, as she was Li's future partner. She said that she could help the eight-tailed fox break through a lot faster. Before Da Yi could do anything, the Phoenix Girl took off with her sister with a loud explosion. Da Yi was left clenching her fist. Meanwhile, the pig and the squirrel girl were enjoying the drama while eating popcorn. These are the most relatable characters in this manhwa. Over in Green Cloud Valley, Chief Gu was holding an immortal stone tablet and chanting. He was talking to his grandpa's stone. He mentioned him and said that they were in the beautiful mountains with no people around, so it was probably a good place for him to offer his prayers. He was also getting old, so he couldn't climb any further. The door to the immortal world was closed again after the immortal cultivators had joined in to open it. However, the seal to the door had become less secure, and someone could sneak in. Chief Gu's grandpa called out to him from the stone and ordered him to summon him. Suddenly, Chief Gu spits blood onto the stone tablet. He asked his grandpa if that was enough. However, his grandpa didn't seem satisfied. He spit some more blood, and a golden gate appeared in the sky. Chief Gu reached out, hoping to pull out his grandpa, but instead, he pulled down two immortals. Chief Gu was stunned and realized that's why he needed that much blood. He yelled at his grandpa and said that he should have told him if he was bringing another person. Frustrated, he saw the two immortals trying to impress him by offering him firebirds. Chief Gu saw through their act and told them to take them to Li right away. He knew that they didn't bring it for him. Both of them grabbed him and told him to bring them to Li. As they reached the entrance of the courtyard, Chief Gu notified the ancestors that a girl appeared in the mortal world the last time the heaven gate was opened. Both of his children saw it. She was a woman with red hair and eyes, dressed all in red, and casually helped 38 cultivators ascend to higher realms. Immortal Gu just nodded, mentioning he was there. He told them that she was an ancient phoenix, known for helping people ascend, which attracted heavenly tribulations. She was called the Red Lotus Heavenly Tribulation, and was one of the top 5 most powerful beings. These kinds of calamities were so intense that just hearing about them can make people lose hope. Sect Master Pei interrupted Immortal Gu and told him that he got one thing wrong. What he was talking about wasn't a catastrophe, but punishment. He told them that even during ancient times, people were not able to survive it since it was so intense. Immortal Gu realized that if it was true, the phoenix might have become ashes by now. Chief Gu told them that they should meet Li first before looking for the phoenix. As he opened the door, he found the phoenix they'd been talking about, which left all of them a bit rattled. The phoenix greeted all of them and took them inside. Li was in the courtyard, happily carving a statue. He smiled and told Blackie to hurry up and help entertain their special guests. The phoenix ordered Bai to bring tea for the guests, but he rejected, saying that he was modeling for Li. Hearing this, Li told him that he should follow the phoenix order. The guests were all shocked beyond belief and couldn't understand what was happening. Li explained that he was just a mortal and that this incredible phoenix happened to drop in his yard. As they were listening to Li, Da Yi peeked at them through the window and immediately shut it up. They wondered if it was a bad time for them to visit. Chief Gu told them that he understood everything. Li wanted the phoenix as a mount, and that's why she didn't die from the punishment of heaven. It was merely a formality for her. They started discussing how brave Li was since he brought the two women together. Even immortals are scared of their girlfriends. Bai quickly brought tea for them, and they all thanked him. They even brought 5 chickens as a gesture of respect. Bai took the chickens and asked if they could lay eggs. The person offering the chickens awkwardly admitted he wasn't sure. Bai handed the chickens back, saying that if they couldn't lay eggs, they could be roasted instead. The 5 firebirds seemed a bit lost until they spotted their old boss. The old boss, looking calm, spread her wings and made space for the chickens. She sat in a basket, laid an egg, and showed it off to the others. The 3 guests, who thought they caught some simple birds, were amazed. They sat quietly, sipping their tea, not daring to make a sound. Immortal Gu asked the sect master if seeing his girlfriends trying to lay eggs was a bit hard for him. The sect master made a determined face and told him that it was a blessing for them to be able to lay eggs for Li. He excitedly shouted at the chicks, telling them to lay more eggs. Chief Gu and the others realized the tea was special, packed with mysterious power. They thought that if they kept drinking it, they might even become Taiyi Golden Immortals someday. In the immortal realm, immortals were ranked as heavenly immortals, true immortals, golden immortals, Taiyi Golden Immortals, Dalu O Golden Immortals, Semi-Saints, and Saints. Becoming a Taiyi Golden Immortal was a big deal, since it required one to master the laws of heaven and earth. A Dalu O Immortal needed 4 Semi-Saints to advance. Lastly, if someone were to become a saint, it would acquire the power of God, and they could even make a man out of nothing. The sect master looked at one of the rooms and asked Chief Gu if it was the same room he had previously mentioned. It was the room with the water purifier and air purifier. He told them that he now understood. Just like the tea, the Taoist flavor in it had become a fragment of law. Master Pei was a bit jealous, noticing how Li's magic weapons were being constantly enhanced by divine power. He also saw that simple things like water purifiers and air purifiers in Li's courtyard had turned into divine quality items. The water from the purifier had become divine water, and the air was incredibly pure. Gu Yuan and Chief Gu were stunned, wondering how this was even possible. It seemed like the courtyard was growing along with the heavens and earth, and maybe the other way around too. Just then, Li finished his carving and proudly announced it. The 3 of them were amazed by the divine power in the statue, realizing it was a unique and priceless treasure. Li couldn't help but smile proudly. He had carved 3 statues, leaving them completely amazed once again. He explained that these statues were for different purposes, one for collecting, one for decoration, and one for practical use. Hubo started teasing Li upon hearing this and said that he needed all of these statues, even though he had her. Li laughed it off and jokingly told her that she was making fun of him again. Dayu watched her from behind and couldn't control her anger. She almost destroyed the room with her nails. The Phoenix girl got even closer to Li and told him that she would agree to all of his requests. Meanwhile, Chief Gu and the Immortals were jealous of the yard and the girl. Just then, Chief Gu introduced Li to his grandfather, Gu Yuan, who was also the first master of Green Cloud Valley. Li was surprised to see all these immortals gather here. Even in the immortal cultivation world, immortals were extremely rare and treated with great respect. Li quickly stood up and apologized, feeling overwhelmed by the presence of such esteemed guests. Gu Yuan and the sect master also stood up, thanking Li for his hospitality and mentioning the chickens they brought for him as a gift. As Li glanced at the firebirds, they started laying eggs all over the place. Seeing this, the immortal couldn't help but feel proud of the firebirds. Li scratched his head, wondering why the 2 great immortals had come to his humble courtyard. Sect Master Pei explained that they had come because of a painting from Journey to the West. Li realized he had been playing around too much and had attracted some unexpected attention. He didn't want to ruin his peace because of a story, so he confessed that those stories were just fiction. Master Pei told him that the immortal world he described in the story was a bit different from the one they lived in. Li awkwardly asked them what the immortal world looked like, and if it actually had a beautiful heavenly palace. Sect Master Pei denied the existence of a heavenly palace and told Li that the immortal world looked pretty much like the mortal world with different sects, but without a leader. Li started laughing nervously and apologized for his rudeness, since he compared a fictional story to the real immortal world. The Fire Phoenix chimed in, saying that she had some memories of the ancient immortal realm, including the heavenly palace. Gu Yuan and Master Pei couldn't believe it actually existed. Huo told them that her memory was a bit fuzzy, since it had been so long, but she did remember a heavenly palace. Li asked if there was a spiritual fruit that could turn mortals into immortals. Master Pei mentioned peaches from Journey to the West, but said that he hadn't heard of such spiritual beings in the immortal realm. However, Huo told them that, in the ancient immortal realm, it was possible for ordinary people to become immortals, but now it seemed impossible. Sect Master Pei sighed, saying that the immortal world had declined too much to regain its ancient glory. Li remained optimistic and started throwing some great bars about hard work and determination. Gu Yuan and the others stared at Li in utter disbelief. He had only spoken about 16 words, but in those words, he had summed up the law of the heaven and the earth. As they were about to leave, they noticed some wood chippings on the floor from the carving Li had done earlier. Li told them that he was planning on throwing it away. This made Gu Yuan uneasy, so he asked Li in a creepy manner if they could throw the chippings away for him, since they were leaving anyway. After getting the chippings, the three of them started fighting over them. They then discussed the things Li had said to them. They believed that every word Li said had some deep meaning. The reason Li mentioned the ancient world was that he loved it so much and wanted to bring it back. Moreover, he asked them about the current status of the immortal world and was disappointed. They remember how Li had also talked about demons and started thinking if he wanted to get rid of demons. The three of them realized that if they wanted to bring back the ancient times, demons were going to be a hurdle. As Master Pei and Chief Gu discussed this serious matter, Gu Yuan secretly took the bag of wood chipping and began walking away. The two of them caught him and shouted at him to stop. Meanwhile, in another land, a black-robed figure summoned a demon god to help unify the mortal realm. The demon offered power and immortality to those who served him faithfully. The demon seemed to have other plans, since told them that he was in the middle of finishing a book. To be fair, he is at the climax, so they need to let him finish. After the demon lord finished reading the book, he asked the other demons if there were any good books in the mortal world. One of the demons told him that there was a book called Journey to the West, and it wasn't that bad. The demon lord immediately ordered one of them to buy an original copy of the book. After that, one demon reminded him of their mission. The demon lord took out his fancy axe and asked it about the location where the book emerged from. The axe pointed at the divine fallen town where Li lived. The demon lord decided to visit the town first. As the demons wondered why he chose this place, they saw several other high-level demons joining up. The demon lord ordered them to kill all the other towns as well. Meanwhile, in the immortal world, this middle-aged dude in a golden robe was chilling. He told everyone how stuff going down in the mortal world was messing with the immortal realm and asked his disciples if they can found anything yet. The disciples stayed silent, to which the man said that he would explain this situation himself. He told them that one Almighty got killed when he went to the mortal world. Moreover, the Almighty who went to retrieve his body was also obstructed in the mortal world. This meant that there was an Almighty in the mortal world. The king had two theories. The first theory was that an immortal dipped down from the immortal realm to the mortal world. As the people were discussing how it was possible, a dog-faced man walked up to the king and told him that he was absolutely right. The immortal king told him that he knew he was brilliant, and that's why his wife loved him so much. However, at the time of the incident, the path between the mortal and the immortal worlds was cut. It meant that no one could pass through the door. A second theory was that someone was born there as an immortal. The dog started licking his boots again and told him that his theory was flawless. The king told him that he thought both ideas were pretty unlikely. The spiritual chi of the mortal realm was pretty weak, so it was unlikely for an Almighty to be born in that world. The king came up with a 200-ick move and told them that he also had a third theory, but he wasn't going to tell them directly. Instead, he would allow one of his advisors to speak on his behalf. The guy he mentioned started trembling since he couldn't think of anything. Just then, this guy with purple hair stepped up and mentioned how the immortal might have been stuck in the mortal world before the realms got cut off. Everybody's jaws dropped when they heard that. Everyone started parsing the king for his clever mind. The man told the king that he must know it already, but the divine chi between the mortal world and the immortal world was diluting. The king told him that he knew this, but he must explain it to the people. Meanwhile, in Li's house, there was some argument about Dai Yi acting as a model. Dai Yi told him that he wanted him to carve his own sculpture in the future. She suggested he carve a statue next time with her chilling next to him. Li was touched by her idea and agreed to it. The Fire Phoenix teased Dai Yi about her smooth moves. She said to herself that Dai Yi was still a human, so she was going to lose in the end. However, Li was feeling good and decided to take Dai Yi for a spin in the city. The Fire Phoenix wanted in on the action, so she went to Li and offered him a ride. Li told her that he couldn't ride her, since she would just frighten the public. Huo was prepared for it, so she transformed back to her human form. However, it was still too much, so Li told her to keep a low profile. After a puff of white smoke, the Fire Phoenix's face went pale, and it turned into this chubby little bird that landed on Li's shoulder. Li found it to be cute, and agreed to take her to the market. Dai Yi didn't like it one bit. Back in the immortal world, the man started explaining the entire situation. He told them that for some reason, the immortal world and the mortal world had reconnected again. Not only that, but the demon world had also connected with both these worlds. They told the king that the way of heaven might be changing, or maybe someone might be changing it on purpose. The king asked the man what they should do in this situation. The man told him that it was a complex matter, so they shouldn't rush. If they understood one part of the problem, they could find the source. One of the immortals in the palace asked him what they would do if they found the source. The man looked at him and told him that they needed to grab him. Moments later, a couple of men were seen chasing the deputy. As he was about to leave, they asked him for the name of the man he was mentioning. The deputy told them that he was not even worth mentioning and left. The scene changed to the fallen divine town. Li went to the market with Dai Yi and Huo. On the streets, they saw a bunch of homeless people, and Li wondered what was going on. Eventually, they reached the spot where they saw Mr. Yu. He looked pretty happy to see Li, and asked what was up in the city. Li asked if there was some kind of war going on, because everything seemed crazy outside. Mr. Yu sighed and mentioned that these people were the survivors. They escaped from the southern area and came here, since the people there were all barbarians. These people believe in the Ammon demon cult. Moreover, they were recruiting soldiers for their army. He even said he might join the army if it weren't for little daughter and his family. Hearing this just made Li feel even more bummed out. It seemed like one problem was just replacing another. As they kept going, they stumbled upon this guy in a military jetep, who was shouting in front of a recruitment office. He got all hyped seeing Li, saying he was famous in the entire mainland. The man got too excited and said that especially in the Xia dynasty, he was considered an existence that was as high as heaven. Li asked him if he was from the Xia kingdom. The general told him that he came here on orders of the king. They were in cooperation with the Qi Anlong immortal dynasty, and were currently hiring soldiers to fight the barbarians in the south. Li sighed and asked him if no one was willing to join the army, despite the condition of the world right now. The general told Li that he was not correct, since many young people had joined the army to fight for the good. However, the situation ahead was so unpredictable that he thought that soon they would need even women and children to fight. Then, the guy asked if Li wanted to join the army, but Li rejected him and said that he would pass. He knew he wouldn't last long on the battlefield. But the guy thought Li's skills could really mess up their enemies, and if he used a single move, he could destroy heaven and earth. So, Li asked if he could check out the guy's gear. The guy gave him his sword and asked if something was wrong. Li analyzed the sword and realized that it was too shabby for a battle that intense. He held the sword and told him that he was going to get serious this time. Meanwhile, in another scene, Shi Yu and Lady Luo are lying on the ground, looking all hurt. King Luo is getting grilled by the demon lord Ammon. He asked him about the immortal who lived in the mortal realm, and said that he would be spared if he opened his mouth. King Luo was filled with rage, and asked him who he was. The demon Ammon told him to open his eyes and see for himself. As Luo opened his eyes, they started burning, and he couldn't see anything. The demon mocked him for being too weak for someone who was a king. The demon sighed, talking about how the moral world had fallen into such a bad state. King Luo heard that and asked the demon if he was actually an almighty. The demon started laughing and told him that it was his doppelganger and only had a bit of his cultivation. He gave Luo another chance and demanded that he tell him about the almighty. King Luo refused to speak and told the demon to try him. The demon Ammon told him that if it was the case, he would kill him first and then ask his daughter and wife. However, just as he was about to blast him to eternity, he heard a voice coming from behind. The demon went to check and saw a guy making something out of metal. He wondered if he was a blacksmith. It was our boy Li, and he was fixing the sword for the general. The demon got mad when he looked at him, since he had disturbed his fun with all the noise. One guy complimented Li's skills and told him that he didn't know that he could forge iron too. Li told him that he only knew a little bit about it. My guy is trying to stay humble. The guy told Li that he had been forging swords his entire life, so he was pretty confident in his own skills. He even forged the sword for King Luo. He told Li that making a sword better than him was not an easy job. Li stood up with a smile and told him that he knew that already. He was going to make the weapon using a crypt way. As Li poured molten metal down on the table, all the men were completely shocked. They realized that he was using pig metal. Li told them that he was using a mixture of metal in a process that removed all the purities. The general started noting the entire process. Li told him not to worry, since he was going to give it to him later on. As Li continued forging the sword, Da Yi stood behind him and stared at the weapon in disbelief. Li told them that he wanted to create the best weapon for his army that could defeat their enemies, and that weapon was the handgun. I can already smell the freedom. The demon lord looked at them from the top and thought that it was all nonsense. He couldn't believe that a small thing like that could fight the demons. As he looked back, he saw King Luo with an unusually large smile. He asked him what was going on. King Luo turned back to his serious face and told him that he wouldn't reveal that the expert was in front of him. The demon lord started laughing, since King Luo had just snitched on the expert. He looked down and thought that he was talking about the general, since he looked pretty strong. King Luo told him that he was taking the wrong approach, since an expert wouldn't go on using force. Moreover, true strength is not seen on the outside. The demon lord started looking again, and his eyes fell on the old blacksmith standing with Li. He thought that he was the expert, since he was old and had been cultivating way before the road to longevity was cut off. King Luo screamed at him and told him that the expert wasn't old. In fact, he was handsome. The demon lord had enough of him. So he got mad and asked who the expert actually was. King Luo rose up and pointed his finger aggressively towards Li. The demon got even more annoyed and asked him if he was joking. He couldn't believe that a mortal like him could be the Almighty. Meanwhile, the general asked Li if he could try the weapon. Li gave him the gun and told him that he could also teach him how to use it. The general accidentally loaded the gun and pressed the trigger, shooting a bullet towards the sky. The bullet hit the demon lord directly on his head and tore it apart. King Luo couldn't control his expression, since he knew the demon lord deserved it. Li warned the general against using the gun like that, since it was dangerous. King Luo thought to himself that it was all part of Li's plan. Suddenly, the demon lord started appearing for real. Li had just killed his doppelganger. The demon lord laughed, since he now knew that the Almighty actually lived in the mortal world. He immediately rushed to attack Li and said that he wanted to test how strong he was. The demon transformed into a mosquito and said that even his senior Almighty couldn't escape his bite. Once he sucked the blood out of someone, they became his slave. Moreover, he had over 1 million clones of himself, so even if one of them was alive, he could not die. Li made a manual for the production of the handgun and gave it to the general. He advised him to give it to the king. Li then gave him his sword and told him that he had made some changes to it. As the general took back his sword, Li told him to try it. The general swung the sword and with a single slash almost destroyed the entire town. Li was terrified of the power and asked him if he was good at martial arts. The general told him that it was thanks to him, since he had made improvements to his sword. However, Li didn't believe it, since he knew that a sword alone couldn't do all that. Suddenly, several angry people started walking towards Li and asked him what was going on. The slash from the sword had destroyed their homes. The general told them that Li's sword was too strong, so it destroyed their homes. Hearing this, Li got even more scared and told them that it was the general's fault, since his martial arts was too good. The general agreed to take the blame and told everyone that it was his fault. Women from the crowd told Li that he had something on his neck. As Li looked down, he noticed that it was a mosquito. He smacked it with his hand before it could bite him. Li hated mosquitoes, so he didn't care about it. He told Da Yi that they should go back. As they were walking, Da Yi looked back at the mosquito and felt that something was off about it. The mosquito seemed confused, not knowing who it was or what it was doing. The demon lord thought to himself that he had his other clones, so it didn't matter if he died. However, he soon realized that its original power had been stripped away, and it was now his true self. If he died now, he wouldn't be able to come back. He looked at Li and wondered who he was and how he got so strong. Da Yi knew that something was wrong, so she stepped on the demon lord with her feet and killed him. King Lu just watched as the mosquito was killed. He said to himself that he had already warned the mosquito not to go. The seal on him and his family had been broken. He called out to his wife and daughter and told them that they needed to go back home and eat something. Li watched as the general and the others walked away and felt emotional. The Phoenix girl asked him if they could go home now since she was tired. Li agreed with her and said that they were going home. As they were walking, he asked her if she could protect him. The Fire Phoenix didn't seem too eager to answer, but eventually agreed. She thought to herself that Li had all the power, so it should be him protecting her, and not the other way around. They went back to the courtyard, and Li went to take a shower. However, the Fire Phoenix spied on him. When Li caught her, she blushed and started making excuses. Li asked why she was spying on him while he was showering. The Fire Phoenix admitted that she was curious about the scent Li was using. Li explained that it was homemade shower gel with floral scents. The Fire Phoenix seemed interested, but Li walked away. He told her that she was immortal, so she didn't need shower gel anyways. Huo continued spying on Li and saw him preparing bathwater for Da Yi. Li called her and told her that her water was ready for her bath. She was curious to know why Da Yi was taking a bath, since she also didn't need a shower. As Da Yi enjoyed her bath, she saw the Fire Phoenix staring at her. Da Yi was shocked to see her suddenly appear, but the Fire Phoenix explained that they didn't need baths since their bodies were pure. Da Yi felt suspicious of her motives, but didn't say anything. When the Fire Phoenix tasted the water, Da Yi's eyes widened in surprise. The Fire Phoenix realized that the bathwater was from an immortal lake. It was extremely rare even in ancient times, and it could turn a mortal into an immortal. This place was called the Flying Immortal Lake. Huo couldn't wait any longer, so she started fighting to get in the pool. Meanwhile, our boy Li was outside eavesdropping on them. He tried convincing himself that he wasn't doing anything weird, but he had fallen for the trap. He wondered what the two of them were doing inside. The next morning, Li came out of his room looking a bit tired. He saw the Fire Phoenix and Da Yi, realizing they had bathed together last night. He wondered when they became so close, which kept him awake all night. It was surprising to see the Fire Phoenix, who had lived for thousands of years, bathe with another at night. This morning, the Fire Phoenix acted differently, asking Da Yi to teach her how to brush her teeth. It was unexpected, but it cheered Li up. Li decided to do something in order to protect the peace he had in his house. He ordered everyone to gather around and told them that he was about to make an announcement. Meanwhile, in Green Cloud Valley, Gu Yuman told Chief Gu that they were returning to the Immortal Realm. They received an order from the Immortal Lord to meet with the suzerain of the Divine Water Sect. It was about them falling in love. Chief Gu was speechless, wondering if people were forbidden to fall in love in the immortal world. Gu Yuan told him that people in the immortal world were not as carefree and undisciplined as the mortals. Just then, Master Pei advised him not to talk much as he feared that they might have eyes spying on them. They decided to leave and disappeared into the sky. Moments later, Ziyao showed up and asked her dad about the Immortal Lord. Chief Gu told her that the Immortal Lord was at the Golden Immortal stage, and he was probably on par with the Demon King of the Demon World. He explained that the ancestors had already reached the stage of true immortals. On the other hand, only the ordinary demon Familiar was at the true immortal stage, so they weren't afraid of fighting the demons. However, the immortals and demons at the Golden Immortal level were the true danger. If they wanted, they could destroy the entire world by just lifting their hand. Ziyao asked him why someone so powerful was looking for the ancestors. She wondered if they were coming for Li. Chief Gu told her that she was correct. However, if someone of that level came for Li, he was sure that they would not be kind. Back in the courtyard, Li taught Da Yi and Huo about the dangerous world they lived in. He told them that a war between demons and immortals was about to begin. And if they wanted to survive, they needed to make connections with powerful cultivators. Huo asked him about his plan, which made Da Yi and Blackie lose their minds. They knew that Li always carried out his plans in secret, so her asking him about his plans might make him mad. However, Li didn't mind and told her that he did have a plan. Li decided to stop pretending and explained his plan, which was to start building relationships with these big shots. He wanted to ask them for protection when the time came. Da Yi and Huo listened intently as they began to make deep meanings out of simple things that Li said. After he was done, he asked them what they thought of it, and both of them seemed to like his plan. Li then took out a thick book and explained his plan to everyone. He wanted them to be familiar with the cultivation world and invest in things like hobbies and cooking skills to impress the big shots. The Fire Phoenix agreed to try her best, but didn't understand Li's goals. Li also mentioned finding potential allies with tragic backgrounds, cautioning against forming deep bonds with them. Everyone was shocked by Li's idea, but agreed to serve him faithfully. Li then showed them a list of names he had compiled with the Fire Phoenix at the top. These were the people they were supposed to please. Da Yi realized that she wasn't on the list and felt down. Li took the list back and told her that he forgot to write a name. Just as she thought that he was about to write her name, he wrote down the name of the old locust tree in the fallen divine town. Da Yi felt even more betrayed now. Li left after telling him that he would put the list in his room. Da Yi started sobbing, but Blackie told her that his name was also not on the list. He told her that Li must have his own plan, and Da Yi agreed with him. She told him that they shouldn't think too much and just continue serving him. However, deep down, she was still upset that he didn't write her name. Later, Li came back looking for Da Yi, but he couldn't find her. Huo told him that she went back to her room. Da Yi was studying the book hard so that she would be more valuable to Li. Hearing that Li told the Phoenix Girl to hop on, since they were going to the spiritual Sun Lake to catch some fish for Da Yi, Bai saw Blackie laying on the grass. He asked him if he was all right. Blackie couldn't stop the tears rolling down from his eyes and told him that he was heartbroken. Li hadn't taken him out for a long time. Bai gave him some flowers and told him that it was really sad. Bai patted him as he told the entire story. He admitted that he was just acting like he didn't care in front of Da Yi, so she wouldn't feel sad. In reality, his heart ached so much that he couldn't breathe properly. Bai told him that he didn't need to mind it that much, but Blackie stood up and said that he had understood everything. He told him that he previously thought that Li was different, since he didn't differentiate between men or women, and mortals or immortals. However, he was wrong. Li chose the phoenix and the fox over him. Moreover, he realized that the less clothes they had, the more favors they got from Li. He said that if things continued like this, he was sure that he would be replaced by some other girl. Bai showed him some stats and told him that when males were accompanied by females, they were more happy. But when you added a dog in between, their happiness dropped. He put on his graduation uniform and told him that he had a plan in mind. If he wanted to get closer to Li, just to let you know, he was trying to cut something off of Blackie, so let's leave it here. Anyways, Li went to check on the locust tree and saw that it had been cut down. He asked an old man about it, who told him that the tree had been cut by some immortal cultivators. The villagers managed to stop them before they could take the roots too. Now all that was left of the tree were the roots and the seedling. Li sat down and felt a bit relieved that at least something was left of the tree. The old man mentioned the immortal cultivators and said that they would face the consequences of cutting the tree. Li told him that cutting down dead branches was actually good for the growth of the tree. He took out some fertilizer and told the man that the tree would grow back. He started praying to the tree to grow back, since it had to protect the town during times of crisis. Meanwhile, up in the sky above Ling Giyun Immortal Palace, there was some lightning flashing. On top of a tower stood the famous seven-blade immortal from the immortal realm. Qin and Master Lin looked at him in horror. She asked her dad what they had just summoned. Master Lin told her that they had summoned an immortal using the immortal steel. However, for some reason, Qin could sense a killing intent from the sword that they had acquired. The immortal summon was no ordinary immortal, and they both knew that. His name was Qirun. He went over to the two of them and asked how to summon him. Master Lin got on his knees and paid his respect to the immortal. Immortal Run asked him about his disciple, and Master Lin told him that there was no disciple there. Ren started laughing and told them that in order to get the treasures from the secret realm, one must at least have a Nirmala sword body. He told them that he didn't expect such a person to exist in the mortal world, so that person deserves to be his disciple. He asked them both who the person was. Lin told him that he was the one who had his inheritance. The immortal spit on both of them and told them to quit lying. He laughed and told them that he had set up 3 different levels, so ordinary cultivators couldn't pass through. Moreover, even if someone could break in, they had to be at the Nirmala sword body level to pull it out. Master Lin asked him if he was actually looking for a disciple, since his test was too hard. He spit on both of them again, but Qin managed to dodge it this time. Immortal Run started laughing again and told them that he understood now. He claimed that they had killed his disciple and took away his inheritance from him. He got mad and decided to kill them to pay for his disciple's death. Before getting cut in half, Master Lin spoke up and told him that there was another expert with them in the secret realm. Immortal Run stopped and thought that the immortal was his disciple. He asked them why they were carrying his inheritance. Master Lin told him that he would tell him the truth if he didn't get mad. The immortal agreed, so Master Lin told him that there was an expert with a cultivation level that was higher than heaven, and he had long taken off the shackles of immortals and mortals. He continued by saying that the inheritance of the immortal was practically useless for someone like him. This made the immortal mad, so Master Lin immediately begged him to calm down. The immortal almost exploded with anger. and told him that he wasn't angry. Later, the two of them went to the lake where the secret realm was located. Immortal Run told him that he couldn't sense any spiritual chi in the area. Master Lin told him that it might be the reason the expert was able to break through it without using any effort. Immortal Run told him that it wasn't possible, since even his weakest barrier was hard for true immortals to break. He had a different possibility in mind. Immortal Run turned into a JoJo reference and told him that he was lying. Suddenly, they heard someone walking towards them and hid in the bushes. It was Lee, and he had Huo sitting on his shoulder. He had come to the lake to fish. He told Hu that a vortex appeared in the lake the last time he went fishing, so if something were to happen, she must save him. Master Lin was terrified of Lee, as he thought he would get mad at him for bringing strange people. As Lee showed Huo his fishing rod, she asked him why he needed a tool to fish. She immediately turned into her phoenix form and dove into the water. As she came out, she had a couple of fish in her mouth. Lee was amazed and was really impressed with her skills. She told him that she was an ancient phoenix, so it was understandable for her to do things like this. Lee released his line into the water and told her to watch you in fishing. After putting the line in, all they needed to do was wait for a fish to take the bait. Meanwhile, in the East China Sea, there was a dragon gate and many sea creatures had gathered to watch it. The dragon gate was slowly opening. As the gate opened, they got inside and were transported to the outside world. As they started rushing out, they realized that the seventh princess wasn't with them. She had actually been caught by Lee as he was fishing. Out of nowhere, another fisherman appeared and told him that the fish he caught saved his life earlier. He told him the story about how he fell into the river and the fish saved him. Lee felt bad for catching such a fish and told him that he was going to release it. Just as he released the fish, the fisherman caught it, and it turned out that he was just trying to trick him. He told Lee that the fish escaped him yesterday, but he wasn't going to let such rare fish get away. He wanted to sell the fish to someone rich. Lee got mad and told him to release the fish. The man didn't want to let the fish go, so he laughed and told Lee to do whatever he wanted. Suddenly, a powerful lightning strike hit the man and put him down. It was Immortal Run, and he wanted to help Lee so that he would agree to become his disciple. He went over to Lee and told him to show him some respect as his teacher. Meanwhile, Master Lin was about to die since he was scared of Lee. Immortal Run soon realized that Lee didn't have any cultivation base and he was just immortal. Master Lin couldn't take it anymore, so he attacked the immortal before he could do anything and told Lee that he had something important to discuss with the guy. He took him away for a minute and told him who he was dealing with. He told the immortal to carefully look at Lee and the bird sitting on his shoulder. He asked if the bird looked normal and cute. Immortal Run looked at the bird and realized that he couldn't see through its cultivation level, which meant that it was probably at a higher level than him. He then had the ultimate realization that maybe he couldn't see Lee's cultivation level because he was also at a far higher level than anyone. Lee saw the same fish surfacing again and told Huo that the fish liked them. Huo suggested that they take the fish back and she could train it. At the same time, Master Lin and Immortal Run came back and apologized for their behavior. After having a talk, Immortal Run looked like a completely different man.